Does what doesn't kill you make you stronger? That was for the thumbnail. Let me make it a bit more thoughtful. Does what doesn't kill you make you stronger? Yeah, I don't know. I think about this a lot. Obviously, I mean, if we take this completely literally, no, it doesn't. Always. I mean, like degenerative diseases, they don't make you stronger. Many examples of things that don't kill you, but don't make you stronger. But if we're being a bit more generous with our interpretation of the phrase and kind of looking at its intended meaning, does what doesn't kill you make you stronger? Yeah, I think about it a lot because I went through a lot of stress over the years, like especially when I was younger. Serious stress, like really chronic. And I did not feel at the time it was making me stronger. I felt pretty convinced it was making me much weaker, and I felt like it affected my physical health quite badly, and I felt it did irreversible damage to me. And my kind of research on the subject confirmed this to be true. The more I learned about cortisol and constantly having high cortisol, like what that does to you, it resonated with me and sort of what I was experiencing, and kind of confirmed my worst fears that, stress is very, very bad for you. In terms of people who live for a long time, one of the only constants, it's not to do with diet and things like that, that is very important, but the only constant between all groups of people that typically live for a long time is low stress, like being in societies where there's not a lot of stress, and where people generally report being quite relaxed and not having too much to worry about. Stress is a killer. It's I think one of the things that takes the most time off our lives, and it leads to weight gain and depression and poor memory, poor sleep. The poor sleep leads to all these other symptoms. It increases your risk of things like cancer. It really like chronic stress does a number on your body. But at the same time, you perhaps develop some kind of mental fortitude that other people who haven't experienced that level of stress don't have, to that extent. You learn things, and if you approach things in the right way, in many respects, it can make you much stronger. I think it depends to some degree on what you're defining as stronger as well. You might become more immune to stress, for example. There are some things that, might cause someone who's less exposed to stress a great deal of like discomfort that you wouldn't experience because you're more used to being stressed. So I guess in that sense you're stronger, but the only way you got used to it is by experiencing it. So sometimes when you see someone who's come from a very hard background compared to someone who, for example, has had like a very easy life, you think, but the person who's had the easy life, they're not ready for all like the shit life's going to throw at them. Well, the person who's had the hard life, they weren't ready when life threw all that shit at them. They had to learn to be ready to deal with it, and they learned that usually through suffering. So in a way there's no difference between them, it's just an issue of timing. Like one person had these experiences early on and they went through all the fucking shit that you go through, and now they're a bit more immune to it, but they went through it. And the other person who's not yet immune to it, if they go through it, they'll go through it. And quite possibly they'll become stronger. I guess the age that these things happen at can also have an impact. Well, definitely have an impact, but maybe in some ways it's beneficial to experience these things when you're younger. Maybe in some ways it's more beneficial to experience them when you're older, so that you can like develop normally as a child and then deal with like the adult world when you're an adult. But I think there's often something that you lose if you gain something and you kind of lose something. I think you gain certain kinds of strength generally through adversity, but there's a trade-off that you make, I think. Obviously that part of that trade-off is just having to experience stress in the first place, just the initial stressful experience, but also, as I said, I think there's like more long-term consequences, and if you, for example, you keep getting screwed over, right? Like if you've for example, people who get screwed over a lot in relationships, people who get like cheated on loads of times and things like that, they get to a point where they don't really want to be with anyone, they don't really trust anyone, they become very like hardened. And in some ways, I guess that's a strength. That's like a form of defense against the pain you've experienced. But at the same time, it makes it harder for them to be like other people. It's like having a callus or something, and like you keep like cutting your hands, you'll become calloused, and it'll be harder to cut your hands, but it will also be harder to like feel them, and then like they'll be like, I don't know, they'll be calloused, like it won't be nice, it'll look weird and it'll feel weird, and when you do pull-ups it'll really fucking hurt your hands because it's like having a tiny little pebble that causes you agony. So yeah, I don't know. I think what is for sure though is that your mindset and the way that you approach stress and suffering is very important, because definitely these things can just make you weaker. Like they don't have to make you stronger in any way whatsoever. If you don't process experiences correctly, then they almost definitely won't make you stronger. They'll probably make you weaker. And you see people, there's some people you see who just seem beaten by life, when you see people and they look really unhealthy and really tired and really unhappy, whether it's they're really thin or they're just really overweight and they look exhausted and like they look like it's just an effort for them just to be awake. It's like hard just to exist, and you see that in quite a lot of people, and stress and suffering can take you there. So I think the way you process experiences, your level of presence of mind, and the way you put things into perspective can make a really big difference. I'm grateful for the things I've learned. Part of me wishes I hadn't experienced as much stress as I have, but I don't know. Maybe when I'm older I'll feel more grateful for that. And I feel fine now, really, like life's pretty calm at the moment. I feel healthy. So I don't know. But when I read about what stress does to your long-term health, it's not good. It's not nice, and it doesn't, read as strength. It reads as like harmful. But if everything was easy, it wouldn't be very meaningful. And there's something intangibly sort of fulfilling about learning to cope with things, learning to approach life in ways that protect you or create better outcomes for yourself. There's something very fulfilling and rewarding about that. A life of just pleasure and comfort, I guess, is not nice. I think there's a balance, I guess, with most things. There's an achievable balance that is kind of like perfection, like somewhere in between kind of an easy, relaxed life, and then one where you have a good amount of adversity to learn to overcome. But then when you look at these places, these like Italian villages where people live to fucking 105 and shit, and they're like shagging when they're like 80 and not using Viagra because they don't have it. I doubt they think their lives are meaningless. I doubt when they die they think, oh fuck, I didn't face any adversity. Oh, I didn't feel stressed enough. They're probably like, this was fucking great. I love my family. I love my friends. I mean, I'm sure they're not happy to die like most people aren't, but you know what I mean. I think that they can come to terms with the fact that, with their own life and the way that they've lived and the experiences they've had fairly easily, I would imagine. And that's not to say that their lives are free of adversity and super straightforward. I guess they have a lot of, day-to-day work to do as well if you're living a sort of rural lifestyle, but everything's done more like manually and things more by hand, and there's like more shit to sort of tend to and take care of. So I guess that in a sense is a kind of, something that keeps you going. But yeah, I don't know. I guess whatever hand you're dealt, you have to deal with it as best you can. And certainly if there's going to be a lot of stress or adversity or difficulty, it's really good to know that you can develop mental strategies that not only make it easier, but are kind of intellectually stimulating as well, and can provide benefit to others. The things that you learn can be beneficial for other people, and help them to feel less stressed, which in turn comes back to the question, is it a good thing for them to be less stressed? Maybe it's good that they have to be stressed or unhappy. Like maybe by helping them, you're robbing them of the, I don't know. I really don't know. I guess the only sort of semi-solid answer I can come up with is that basically a good balance is important. And I think I want to talk about this in another video anyway, but I think that's why a lot of questions are hard to answer, like when you're choosing between two things, for example, because frequently the answer is in between those two things, and there's a kind of duality or balance that you have to achieve between certain things, and that we're always looking for an answer, for a concrete answer, like, should I do this, or should I do that, or should I be this way, or should I be that way? And we always want it to be what, because that's easy, but frequently the answer is a constant balancing act between the two. And I guess that's what we have here a bit, really, or at least that's how I've come to see it and think about it throughout the course of making this video. So yeah, that's all cool.